Welcome to this presentation on how to research for the FAFSA decision factors for need-based federal financial student aid. Many people are asking themselves the questions, how do they decide your eligibility to receive financial aid? And if so, how much aid? The sequence of this presentation is as shown. Let's start with the introduction and scope of this presentation. This presentation is part of a series on funding higher education provided by United Way of the Quad Cities area. I'm John Cook, a volunteer and FAFSA navigator. I'm going to keep this presentation moving along. Please feel free at any time to pause or replay the video in order to review the sections that catch your interest. The scope of this presentation is to provide to you where to research on the web for answering the questions. How does the Department of Education and the schools make the federal need-based financial aid eligibility decisions and decide how much aid? I'll provide some initial answers, but for in-depth answers, I recommend that you do your personal research at the websites coming up in this presentation. The presentation's answers will go from simple to complex and will also include other supporting websites for your research. Let's go exploring. The first website that we shall explore is the U.S. Department of Education's website for student aid. We're now at the Department of Education's website, studentaid.ed.gov. It has two sections for your use. The first is the fourth main topic on the home page. How do I apply for aid? The second is in the More Info section's resources found in the middle right of the home page. Let's blow up the More Info list and look at its interesting topics. As we said, of most interest to us now are the resources. These are the two sections we'll be using for our research and use at studentaid.ed.gov. First, we'll explore the student aid section on applying for aid and its explanations on how the decisions for student aid are made. From the student aid homepage, we may select the fourth option on applying for aid's drop-down menu and go to Next Steps. From the new drop-down menu, we select How is aid calculated? Or if you're in the aid section's main page, just look for the quick links on the right and again select the How Aid is Calculated. We're now at the How Aid is Calculated webpage, and its direct web address is as shown. At the top of the page, the Department of Education folks have sections for you to read. We'll present only a few, so please do visit this page and do your own reading and research. Here is the short and easy explanation of how federal aid is calculated and your eligibility determined. Your eligibility depends on your expected family contribution, or EFC, your year in school, your enrollment status, and the cost of attendance at the schools you are thinking of attending. Now comes an important point. The financial aid office at your college or career school will determine how much financial aid you are eligible to receive. Be sure to file this information away for your future use. The web page's follow-on reading for the simple explanation is: each school has an initial predetermined cost of attendance, or COA, listed in the FAFSA database. The COA includes the tuitions for various types of students, books, fees, and different living arrangements, all to be used for initial planning purposes. They then consider your expected family contribution, or EFC, in three types to be explained later, depending on the student's dependency status. They subtract the expected family contribution from the cost of attendance and see if there really is a need. If the student or family have enough money to cover the cost of attendance, there is no need. However, if the cost of attendance exceeds the student's or family's capabilities, then there is a financial need. If there is a financial need, another calculation is to determine how much of the cost will be covered by federal financial aid and in what form, and then the amount that may be left over to come from other sources. That's the simple answer. If you like a longer answer, you're invited to keep reading. The financial decision webpage is like an iceberg, with just the tip showing above the water. Keep scrolling down to read lots more about the decision factors and calculations. We'll explore some, and some I'll leave up to you. Also later on, I'll show you a forecasting tool to get at the answer quicker. Back to researching. Let's now explore a second section of the Student Aid website, located in its Resources, and how to find the guidance on the EFC, the expected family contribution. Again, the second place to explore is in the More Info section in the middle right of the home page, and click on Resources. When we click on the word Resources, we jump to the Resources webpage. We have a list of resource sections, and let's blow up our list. We can find our resources for the expected family contribution, or EFC formula, in the second major section on FAFSA information. As we scroll down the long list of resources, we get to the Booklets and Brochures section. And one of the options is to download the current EFC formula booklet. You now have access to the 36-page booklet on the three types of expected family contribution calculations. You might be thinking, this booklet is on the family contribution. What about an independent student all by themselves? But the Department of Education uses this booklet to explain the formulas and calculations for both dependent and independent students, as we'll see next. The EFC booklet has explanations and definitions in the first 8 pages, and then breaks off into the worksheets and tables for the three types of expected family contribution calculations. The first is for dependent students. The second is for an independent student by themselves or with a spouse. And the third is for independent students and possibly a spouse who also have other dependents, such as children, siblings, or parents. Please do download and explore the many worksheets, tables, and formula calculations to determine federal financial aid eligibility and, if eligible, in what amounts for Set A for dependent students, Set B for an independent student by themselves or with a spouse if applicable, and Set C for independent students and a spouse if applicable who also have the other dependents. This looks complicated and more than you may wish to deal with. Question: are there ways to just get to the end answer before I submit the full FAFSA? I'm glad you asked. Let's continue our research for other supporting resources and answers. And here it is. Ta-da! The first and most important resource is the FAFSA Forecaster tool. It can estimate your eligibility for aid and amounts for federal student aid which come in the forms of Pell Grants, student loans, and work-study opportunities. It assists you in your research for the cost of attendance, the COA data for each school. It will provide to you a ballpark estimate of what federal financial aid will cover in relationship to the cost of attendance and help you determine what is then not covered by federal aid, so you know if you need to keep exploring for other forms of aid. The FAFSA forecaster can help you practice filling out the FAFSA and enable you to know the information you have to gather, plus let you test fire your answers as often as you desire. Great! So where do we find this FAFSA forecaster? Well, there is the address shown on the screen, plus the forecaster is also found on this main FAFSA application website, the main FAFSA online website at fafsa.ed.gov. And it's like that iceberg, with most of it hiding under the water. So be sure to scroll way down below the main login portion to the very bottom for the direct jump to the FAFSA forecaster, the Federal Student Aid Estimation Tool. Also on this page is the direct link to the College Scorecard, which provides you research on schools, including their cost of attendance ballpark estimates. Both are located way under the FAFSA login at the bottom of the main FAFSA website. These two tools will help you to make your estimates on federal student aid and help you make decisions on what schools you may decide to attend. You can learn more on the FAFSA forecaster as a YouTube lesson. Just search in YouTube for FAFSA Navigator Presentation for more information on this useful research and planning tool, the FAFSA forecaster. Your United Way of the Quad Cities Area volunteer FAFSA navigators hope to support schools and organizations' college night sessions. You can gain even more insights by going to YouTube and in the search function, type in FAFSA Navigator Presentation. This presentation is on financing your higher education. Use the whole hand approach. Use monies you already have in hand through savings. Next, use the FAFSA as it focuses on need-based assistance, which is a great place to start, but don't stop. Keep seeking merit-based assistance, searching for assistance based upon the school, the major, plus the students and families, characteristics, background, ethnicity, memberships, and affiliations. It's time to wind down our research for this session. Hopefully, we have begun to answer some of your initial questions on how the decisions for federal financial aid are made and by whom, plus how any amounts of aid are determined. You are encouraged to use the Student Aid website, the tools at the FAFSA website, and the Expected Family Contribution EFC formula booklet, all to conduct more research. Displayed here are the references and referrals used in this presentation. Displayed here are some notes for you to read, plus my email address if you have questions or have a suggestion to improve this presentation. Thank you for your time and kind attention. As a United Way volunteer FAFSA navigator, it has been my pleasure to provide to you this presentation on websites to research on federal financial aid decisions.